In a small, quiet town, there lived a woman named Marica, in a cozy little house with a garden full of flowers. All her life, Marica had only one dream: to become a mother. And now that dream was only days away. Her belly had grown round, carrying a tiny heartbeat inside. Every morning when she looked into the mirror, her eyes filled with tears, a mix of excitement, love, and fear. But during her pregnancy, Marica wasn't truly alone. There was someone who never left her side: her golden-hearted dog, Luis. Luis, with his soft golden fur and eyes full of devotion, was more than a pet. He was Marica's friend, protector, and silent guardian. As the days went by and the birth drew closer, Luis became even more attached. He would rest his head gently against Marica's belly, listening as if he could hear the tiny heartbeat inside. Sometimes he'd tilt his head, wag his tail softly as though saying, "I know someone special is coming soon." But can animals really sense a miracle before it happens? Maybe Luis already felt the love of the baby he hadn't even met yet. And then that beautiful morning arrived. The house was still and quiet, until the sound of a newborn's cry filled the air. Marica had given birth. A new life had come into the world. Little Maria. Tears of joy streamed down Marica's face as she held her baby for the first time. Meanwhile, Luis stood by the door, his eyes wide, ears perked, waiting patiently. When Marica slowly opened the door, Luis stepped in carefully. He approached the crib, lowered his head, and sniffed the tiny bundle. Then his tail began to wag, gently at first, then faster and faster, as if his heart could finally breathe. In that moment, Marica thought to herself, "It's like Luis already knows her." From that day on, Luis became Maria's guardian angel. He stayed by the crib, watching over her every night. When Maria cried, Luis would nudge the cradle with his nose, softly whining as if to comfort her. Sometimes Marica would smile and whisper, "Luis, are you her brother or her angel?" Days turned into months and Maria grew. Her first laugh was for Luis. Her first word wasn't mama, it was Louie. They played together in the garden, ran among the flowers, and fell asleep side by side. Every morning began with Luis's gentle paws, and every night ended with his warm breath beside her bed. But life has its own way of testing love. One morning, Maria's eyes were swollen, her breathing shallow. Her parents rushed her to the hospital. The doctor's words hit like thunder. "I'm sorry, your daughter is severely allergic to dogs." The world seemed to stop. Marica felt her heart shatter into pieces. What could she do? On one side was her child's health, on the other, the dog who had been part of their family for years. Through tears, the family made the hardest decision of their lives. Luis had to be taken to the shelter. That day was pure heartbreak. As Luis got into the car, he turned his head one last time. Through the window, Maria was crying, her tiny hands hitting the glass, shouting, "Don't take Luis away." But no one could stop it. That night, Maria cried herself to sleep, whispering his name, Luis. Days turned into weeks, but the house was no longer the same. Maria stopped smiling. She didn't play. Every time she heard a dog barking outside, her eyes filled with tears. Marica's heart broke a little more each day. Her daughter's laughter, once so bright, was gone. And a mother always knows when her child's heart is in pain. One evening, Marica sat by Maria's bed and whispered to herself, "No medicine can heal what love has broken." The next morning she made her choice. She would bring Luis back. When Marica arrived at the shelter and opened the gate, Luis froze for a moment, and then, recognizing her scent, ran as fast as he could. He jumped into her arms, crying in his own way, his tail wagging uncontrollably. It was a reunion filled with tears and joy. When they got home, Maria was sitting quietly on the couch. But the moment she saw Luis, her eyes lit up for the first time in weeks. "Luis," she screamed, running toward him. She hugged him, kissed him, held him tight as tears streamed down both their faces. But this time they were tears of pure happiness. That evening the house came alive again. Laughter echoed through the rooms. Everything felt warm again, whole again. But fate had one more surprise. A few weeks later, Luis's belly began to swell. At first they thought something was wrong, but then they realized Luis was pregnant. The family prepared the house all over again for new life. And one morning, Luis gave birth to 7 tiny puppies. Maria was overjoyed. She ran to the little ones, touched their soft fur and laughed. And then something incredible happened. Her allergy was gone. The doctors couldn't explain it. But maybe, just maybe, love really is the best medicine. Now the house was full of joy, warmth, and the sound of tiny paws. Maria and Luis were inseparable again, stronger than ever. They played, grew, and healed each other, surrounded by the kind of love only a child and a dog can share. Sometimes Marica would watch them from the garden and smile softly, whispering to herself, "Maybe love truly can cure anything." Red Heart final message. This story reminds us of something beautiful. Real bonds never break. Even if life separates us, even if time passes, love always finds its way back. Just like Luis and Maria. Paw Prints, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more stories like this.